I roused from my snooze in an invigorated and stronger condition than the prior day. My capacities of devastation appear to be peculiarly resplendent today. After securing some well-deserved respite, I set to judging it befitting to visit Jarl Belgriff of Whiterun and caution him to the dragon which had harried Helgrin, whilst at the same time providing security for Riverwood as required by Girder. Ere I besides the abode of Riverwood headed for Whiterun, I persisted to accumulate whatever apprehensions would likely be of service on my voyage, whatever that might sum to. Maybe I should come to be a skillful alchemist. Initially to my port as I made my way alongside the stream, a spool of fish with angling pole, a booklet titled Line and Lure, and some bait rested, waiting. Albeit I had neither the endowment nor the moments for such diversion, I did explore the pamphlet, fit the rod, and test to nab a fish. A river Betty. Perhaps one day, when I do have a few trifling interludes, I can savor of such a pleasure. Likewise, I concluded my journey. A divergence lay up ahead. After a brief inspection of the close-by road markers, I proceeded along the route to Whiterun. Proceeding upon the way, normally intentfully hunting for daisies and captivating butterflies, I regard the opulence of the near neighborhood's own animals, who appeared appalled by my presence. Ranging not far beyond my sight, I could hear a wolf howling. I grabbed my bow, and suddenly an unexpected assault. I launched one arrow, striking at the target, and instantaneously switched to my mysterious sciences and slew the wolf in an instant. I picked up my arrow and got the pelt before proceeding further. The town of Whiterun could be seen in the horizon as I collected a handful of more blossoms. I noticed a contingent of Imperial forces treading along the similar road. At first, I kept my stretch from them, scared of being retaken. Be that as it may, I am now on civil duty from Riverwood. As I reached the site, a soldier prompted me to proceed forward.
Imperial business. Be on your way.
An assemblage of them, it seemed, had another of the Stormcloaks fast in chains. With luck, he will not suffer the same destiny I almost beholden just the day before. Prompted again as I headed forth, not to neglect in becoming tangled up, evidently the Imperial army was not looking to have me in chains. Through further, after on the path, I encountered the Honing Brew Meadery, which lies without Whiterun's walls. Seems that here it was quiet and chickens could wander freely. It would appear that Fowl did not disclose the genuine menace that anticipated, as a giant was portrayed in combat. I got my arrow ready and launched it, missing, although fortunately the giant was subdued. I advanced to ascertain if I could extend any more help. When I came up, I was accosted by Aelia the Huntress.
Well, that's taken care of. No thanks to you.
Despite not having partook in the giant enterprise, I still proposed to assist.
Another milk drinker crying about his effort.
Aelia laid it clear I was not
Glory
sufficient.
only awaits those who triumph.
She spoke of the champions,
companions,
order of valiant
our
fighters, and
glory
the pursuit
must
of
always be
eminence.
hard
It
fought.
seemed a fun congregation.
An outsider, eh? Never heard of the companions? An order of warriors. We are brothers and sisters in honor. And we show up to solve problems if the coin is
If I were to be spotted in Urvaskar, look for
Not for me to
Karlak
say.
Whitemane.
You'll have to talk to Karlak Whitemane up in Urvaskar. The old man's got a good sense for people. He can look in your eyes and tell your worth. If you go to him, good luck.
Swindling a few moments to explore the giant, I reclaimed a handful of arrows from his form. My journey
Fight with
must
us and you'll
continue
have
for
stories
now.
to tell.
so I took my leave and continued my path to Whiterun. As I proceeded through the stables, it was quite evident how cautious the town was, as the atmosphere did denote being on heightened alertness. As I came up to the sealed gate, a guard confronted outside it.
City's closed with the dragons.
He made understandable that Whiterun was closed because of dragons. I persuaded him to allow me inside, since I was equipped with perceiving from Helgren of the dragon's raid. Piercing into Whiterun, I discerned two individuals in transit of words. I eased on their speech, and evidently the Imperial army was requiring more sword arms.
We must have more swords for the Imperial soldiers.
I just can't fill an order that size on my own.
Unluckily, the demand was
Why
too
don't you
plentiful
swallow
for
that stubborn
Adriana,
pride of yours
the
and
regional
ask
blacksmith, to
Orland
manage.
Greymane for help?
I'd sooner bend my knee to Ulfric's Stormcloak. Besides, Greymane would never make steel for the Legion.
Have it your way. I'll take the job, but don't expect a miracle.
As I toiled through Riverwood pursuing the Jarl, it seemed an amicable and secure hamlet.
I'm the commander of the guard here in Whiterun. My boys will keep you safe, don't you worry.
Pretty market laid in the town center in the lower region.
Oh, it took years, but I earned my way to the top. I own Chilfaro Farm, you see. Very successful business.
Ascending the stairs, a gorgeous fountain was before me. A sermon being brought resonated from afar.
Mister, could you spare
Halted
a
by
coin?
Lucia, a little lass
Just
was
one
hopelessly
gold?
asking for coin.
Oh,
I
thank you.
obliged, and handed her a gold
Bless
coin
your
and listened to
kind
her
heart.
tragic tale.
It's what Brennan said I should do. He's the only one that's been nice to me since Mama. Since she died. My aunt and uncle took over our farm and threw me out. Said I wasn't good for anything. I wound up here, but I don't know what to do.
I proposed to
I miss
provide
her
her
so
habitation, yet discerned I was much in the same unfortunate state, as I had scarce a handful of
Really?
gold or my own residence.
Do you have a place I could live? Oh, well. Thanks anyway, I suppose.
Maybe I could proceed to working on my standing further and one day take this wretched girl into my custody, or aid her in avenging her aunt and uncle. The incantations of Talos echoed, and I paused to listen to him preach of the might and robustness of Talos, who is also known as Tiber's Septon, plus the tale of the white gold concordant.
You have come to hear the word of Talos. Hello, my friend. If you seek knowledge about mighty Talos, you have most certainly come to the right person. In mortal life, Talos was a Nord, possessed of unmatched tactical skill, limitless wisdom, and the power to see into men's hearts. Talos mastered the power of the voice, and with it he united the lands of men into a great empire. In southern lands, he was known by the name Tiber's Septon. Here in Skyrim, we honor him by his proper Nord name. So great was his reign in life. When he ascended to the heavens, he was made Lord of the Divines. If you want to know more, I'm sure you can find any number of tomes on the subject. Because the so-called Emperor is a coward. That's right, I said coward! Oh yes, he agreed to banish the worship of Talos at the tip of an Aldmeri sword. They called it the White Gold Concordat. Well, I call it blasphemy. A true son of the Empire would never have turned his back on our greatest hero. Not at any price. Well, let me tell you something, friend. Cyrodiil is a long way from here, and in Skyrim, we will never forsake mighty Talos. Let them come. I have no fear, for Talos is my ally, and I am his prophet. His word is upon my lips, his voice in my throat.
Advancing forward, I activated the Shrine of Talos and sensed strength break through me. Now, with my powers of tongue fully charged, I am ready to meet with Jarl Belgrif and share my news.
He who is both man and divine.
Traversing the balance of the steps to enter Dragon's Reach, I entered the palace. I was taken back at the gracefulness of its design and measure. I, by and by, moved up the staircase approaching Jarl Belgrif the Greater, and was fended off by Irileth's drawn sword and quizzed on my introduction.
My lord,
What's the meaning of this interruption? Jarl Balgruuf is not receiving visitors.
Communicating intelligence from Helgrin, she sheathed her sword and
why
set
the
me
gods
forth
let
to
you
the
in.
Jarl to be inquired
Come on
further.
then. The Jarl will want to speak to you personally.
The Jarl made inquiry regarding the dragon.
So, you were at Helgen. You saw this dragon with your own eyes?
I considered it wise to be forthright and let him recognize I was almost set to execution.
You're
Maybe he can fully
certainly
discharge me from any
forthright
blame if
about
I
your
be in any
criminal
difficulty.
past. But it's none of my concern who the Imperials want to execute, especially now. What I want to know is, what exactly happened at Helgen?
He pursued further with the distinctive circumstances concerning the dragon's eruption on Helgen.
Irileth was right. What do you say now, Proventus? Shall we continue to trust in the strength of our walls against the dragon?
My lord, we should send troops to Riverwood at once. It's in the most immediate danger. If
The
that
Jarl of
dragon is
Balgruuf
lurking in the
will view
mountains.
that as a provocation. He'll assume we're preparing to join Ulfric's side and attack him.
The discourse of platitude, war, and the revolt no doubt seemed to be subsided as the welfare of the people of Riverwood and Whiterun presently dangled in the scales.
We should
Enough!
not...
I'll not stand idly by while the dragon burns my hold and slaughters my people.
The Jarl consented to dispatching
Irileth,
troops to
send
Riverwood
a
no matter what
detachment to
cost on the
Riverwood at
political
once.
battle that waged.
Yes, my Jarl.
If you'll excuse me, I'll return to my duties.
That would be best.
The Jarl seemed pleased with my plan to alert him to the
done.
perils and wanted
You
additional
sought me
help
out
with this
on your own
dragon matter.
initiative. You've done Whiterun a service, and I won't forget it. Here, take this as a small token of my esteem. There is another thing you could do for me. Suitable for someone of your particular talents, perhaps. Come, let's go find Farengar, my court wizard. He's been looking into a matter related to these dragons and rumors of dragons.
The Jarl directed me to his magistrate seer, who had been examining the controversy on dragons. The Jarl caused me to his sage, Farengar.
Go ahead and fill him in with all the details.
So the Jarl thinks you can be of use to me. Oh yes, he must be referring to my research into the dragons. Yes, I could use someone to fetch something for me. Well, when I say fetch, I really mean delve into a dangerous ruin in search of an ancient stone tablet that may or may not actually be there.
Farengar, without providing much insight, inquired me to quest to a risky nonentity to track an ancient rock tablet.
Ah, no mere brute mercenary, but a thinker. Perhaps even a scholar? You see, when the stories of dragons began to circulate, many dismissed them as mere fantasies, rumors, impossibilities. One sure mark of a fool is to dismiss anything that falls outside his experience as being impossible. But I began to search for information about dragons. Where had they gone all those years ago?
Upon a few talks
Where were
between
they
us,
coming
Farengar
from?
requested that I leave for Bleakfall Barrows, retrieve the dragon stone, which is
learned of a
whispered to
certain
possess
stone
the index
tablet said
to old
be
dragon
housed in
burial
Bleakfall's
sites.
Barrow. A dragon stone, said to contain a map of dragon burial sites. Go to Bleak Falls Barrow, find this tablet, no doubt interred in the main chamber, and bring
The
it to
goal
me.
was evident.
Simplicity
Depart for
itself.
Bleak Fall Barrows, a historic shrine manufactured by the Nords. Traverse the
tomb
dangerous
built
ruins,
by the ancient
find the
Nords,
prime chamber,
perhaps dating back
gain
to
the
the
rock
Dragon
tablet,
War itself.
and proceed back to Farengar.
Ah, maybe you just want to know how to get there. It's near Riverwood, a miserable little village a few miles south of here. I'm sure some of the locals can point you in the right direction once you get there. Well, must preserve some professional secrets, mustn't we? I have my sources.
Farengar spoke of the
Reliable.
Dragon Wars. I was besought for more. Dragons on one occasion looked upon as
Not
gods
surprised
were
you've
at
never
long
heard of
last
it.
overwhelmed by
Even
the
I
Nords
used
and
to
left
think it was
legends and
just a myth.
shrines behind.
But not anymore. The Dragon War was a real event, although only the barest glimmer of the actual events has come down to us. Far back in the Mythic era, the dragons were worshipped as gods in Skyrim. Many of the monumental ruins that still dot the landscape were in fact built as temples to the dragons. The details are lost, but at some point, the Nords rebelled. After a long and terrible war, the Nords overthrew their
Not wholly
dragon
were the
overlords.
dragons killed in a war, considerable amount lived. Even the
Oh, no.
palace where we stood
Many
was
were
erected
killed,
by
of course,
Balgruuf's heirs
but many
to
survived
imprison a dragon
historical
and
time.
warranted its
Why,
designation
this very
Dragon's
palace
Roost.
is built by one of Balgruuf's ancestors to hold a captive dragon. Hence its name, Dragon's Reach.
I had scarce encountered any wizard, so I suppose this be a prime occasion for me to put forth my query
I
as to if
believe
this
I am,
one was
yes.
unique.
Technically speaking, of course. The city is also home to a priest, priestess, an alchemist, and I'm sure others who practice. Ah, that reminds me. Speaking of alchemists,
It was evidently
I have
not
some frost salts
satisfactory
for
to
Arcadia.
render me to march
She
to
asked me to
Bleakfall
attend them for one
Barrows.
of
Still
the
more,
boats.
Farengar required me to
Would you be so
transit
kind as
frost
to
salts to
deliver the frost
Arcadia,
salts for me?
whereby I had the
I'm sure
likelihood to
Arcadia will
acquire
provide
some
some
coin
form of
for
recompense.
completion. Following my acceding his proposal, Farengar
You're
scorned
clearly
me,
better suited than I am to carry out such a menial task.
which was paradoxical, as he was in need of me to take the
Off to
Dragonstone
Bleak
from a
Falls
perilous
Barrow with
temple.
you. The Jarl
Anything we
is
can
not a
use to
patient
fight
man.
this dragon.
Neither
or
am I.
dragons. We need it quickly.
Whilst Belgroff and Farengar carried on speaking, I journeyed to his study and upon his desk beheld a book entitled Nords of Skyrim and a pouch full of gold.
Succeed at this, and you'll be rewarded. Whiterun will be in your debt.
His past slight was to be recompensed to my satisfaction, so I greedily took the coin and book with me for my future amusement. During my stay in his study, I inspected the other books. However, I presently had sufficient reading matter at my disposal. I spent some minutes to perform my alchemy upon his sill, amalgamating a few of the elements I had gathered, examining my primitive components and detecting novel effects. Though not all my attempts were successful. Alternating diverse components allowed me to unearth the occult knowledge of these ingredients and their alchemistical interminglings. Even as some of the experiments were deficient, I supplemented my knowledge and enhanced my acuteness in the art of alchemy. At a conclusion of my manipulation, I recollected that in my enthusiasm I had applied the frost salts I was supposed to take to Arcadia. Seeing how I yielded to my passion, I guess I was not proper to accomplish such mundane undertakings.
So I practice my
It was now time for me to rush on with the work before me and head to Bleakfall Barrows. As I exited the village, it seemed as if all wanted requisition from me.
We can't afford it.
Then I noticed a young maiden swindling a small boy, a battleborn no less, for money. I stepped in and talked with the both of them.
I don't have any money.
10 septims tomorrow, baby Battleborn, or I'm gonna bloody your nose and your lip.
No, please. It's no fun getting pushed around all the time. Well, I used to sneak out at night and try to tip over the big ox in the Greymane's yard. And me and Mila used to climb up on the roof of Dragon's Reach and look for birds' eggs. But I don't do that stuff anymore. father keeps catching me.
I was concerned that Braith was accustomed to the wickedness, and that a dark road lay ahead for that
Girls,
one.
dogs, elders. There's nobody I won't fight.
Do you get to the cloud
At the town
district very
threshold,
often?
I witnessed Irleth explain the sentry about her coming in Denver.
Just us against the dragon.
I stopped to inquire, the two of them, a number of questions about being a housecarl of the Jarl.
I am charged with protecting the Jarl from any and all threats. Powerful men have many enemies, more so in times of strife, so you can imagine the dangers. Oh yes, there have been attempts on the Jarl's life. More than one would-be assassin has met his end at the tip of my blade. I can't afford to send anyone else, and we don't know where.
Brigands I can handle.
In the beginning of my expedition to the Barrow, I ceased at a merchant's booth and encountered Risiad, and quizzed him on the troubles they experienced along the path.
Warm sands, friend. How may this one serve you? It is all in this note.
I had also taken a letter, which I would have done well by if I had have read it before continuing. I hastened fast to Riverwood, which was underneath the gloom of Bleak Falls Barrows. As I passed out of the town, I glimpsed a few watchmen that were sent as reinforcers for the locality.
What is it? Dragons?
Whilst I forded the current, I heard a peculiar clamor emanating from a bush at the riverside. This sound was evidently uttered from Ninru, which I seized. I persisted upon the mountain and began ascending the stairs and signals that indicated the route. Midway along the path stood a large tower. And as I prowled around it, armed with my bow, I was taken off guard as a longsword pierced my flesh from a nearby bandit. I took out an arrow and pierced his torso, and being so close, I exerted my arcane powers of flame and lightning, causing the bandit to fall. Nevertheless, it appeared the accomplices of the bandit had discerned either the scuffle or the battle cries, thus they hastened to join the combat. When the following outlaw came running over the bridge, I channeled all of my potency, and he promptly fell to the earth. An arrow flew in my path, and so I expressed back to my bow, and by means of the tree, guarded myself as we engaged in a duel of bows. My opening discharge narrowly landed, whilst his missed the target. The outlaw crouched behind the tower. I re-extended the arrow, and momentarily dropped the tip of the arrow into a toxin I had obtained from an exterminated spider. I discharged the poisonous arrow, but unluckily it missed the aim. I immediately advanced and shot another arrow, and as I advanced, I channeled my arcana and directed out sparks and flames, causing the last bandit to fall. Having concluded the struggle, I glanced ere the slain who had stupidly attempted to surprise me. Taking a purse of gold from the table, I scoured the rest of the tower for treasure or foes. As I went through, I discovered a few tomatoes which might prove beneficial at some future period, or to be used in a stew. On reaching the apex of the fortress, there opened before me a chest, the lid which I found unbolted. Taking possession of its riches, I descended. After overwhelming those evildoers, I pressed onward up the mountain. The snow's virulence increased as I arrived at Bleak Falls Barrow. Fording up the stairs, I suddenly espied another bandit at the uppermost step. Making certain to remain unseen, I plucked an arrow and sent it a swift dispatch in a well-aimed surprise offensive. The miscreant rushed up to me and discharged an arrow that proved ineffective. I instantly shifted to fire and lightning, with which I soon laid him slain. Impelled by this sprightly incident, I knew that the remainder of the villains would be aware of my whereabouts, and resumed my bow. A lurch and an errant arrow revealed the road behind me. With elasticity, I swiveled around and sent an unsuccessful arrow in his direction. His own shaft, however, found its way, and I sensed much danger. I hastily returned to my magical practices, and I, having disposed of the road, commenced to cure my wounds, withal rummaging through the maid's collection in search of whatever could be of advantage. Unaware of its presence, another scoundrel launched an arrow my way, so I, taking refuge, cast a spell of recovery one more time. I moved with trepidation out from behind the column I had found refuge in, and in an instant I regained my bow and proceeded to encounter the enemy. Our arrows whizzing past one another as the foe labored to hide among the cumber of what was once a building. Not daring to delay, I stepped closer yet and released a barrage of sparks, and all the time with one hand quenching my wounds and with the other dispatching volleys of lightning, expending my dwindling vigor to smite the bandit with an army of sparks and combustion, thus banishing him from this world. I scoured the cadaver before pushing forward in my expedition. As I reached the summit of the mountain, the entrance lay ahead of the foreboding temple of Bleak Falls. Stealthily entering the first chamber, amidst the fire I found my unsuspecting enemies, and thereupon I poised my newly acquired hunter's bow and shaft of iron. I loosed a near deadly arrow, and soon as the knave rounded the corner, the second shaft had already found its target in the chest of the building. When one oppression was vanished, another emerged, as the bandit behind hastily advanced, trying to snatch and loose an arrow at me. At once, I swept away the danger before she had succeeded. Having searched the bodies of the defeated, not all of which I had brought down myself, I proceeded to the fire, finding a secured chest under whose lock I did unleash. Gazing around the hollow and the path from whence I came, I now began to ruminate on the journey yet remaining in my expedition for the Dragonstone of this temple.